So, if you missed it, last night at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so literally 1 a.m. in Toronto, Elliotte Friedman and Kyle Bukauskas dropped a pre-draft 32 Thoughts podcast extravaganza with news, information, and analysis, draft conversations with gurus Jason Bukala and Sam Constantino. There's a conversation with Sabres GM Jarmo Kekalainen. There's so much to dive into, all before the draft. And the draft, of course, by the time this video is up, the draft's in like 4 hours. So we're going to have to make some more commentaries talking about whom it is the Vancouver Canucks end up taking at the 3rd overall spot, which teams move up into the top 10, which teams trade away their top picks, if that's even going to happen. This is what the list looks like at the time of me speaking into this microphone. It might be very different by the time this video is on YouTube. But instead of talking about the draft and the speculation station, Chase Reed, Caleb Malhotra, Viggo Bjork, Ivar Stenberg, McKenna, Reed, whomever else, we're gonna get our solace on that in a few hours. So maybe it's not worth it to bring it up once more. What is worth to bring up, though, is all of the Elliotte Friedman discussion on the Vancouver Canucks and the players that are on the team right now. Vancouver Canucks News Summaries went out there and summarized Elliotte Friedman's Canucks stuff on the recent 32 Thoughts podcast. So big shout out over to Canucks News Summaries for the scoop. Take a look at what Friedman says about the latest in Vancouver Canucks trade talks. He asked around about Filip Hronek, and he has been told there's nothing there. One of the things that has changed, though, is Vancouver's willingness to retain on an Elias Pettersson trade. The Canucks are willing to do a lot of things with their veterans. Originally, they weren't going to trade Pettersson without receiving a comparable center in return, but that has changed under new management. If Pettersson is willing to waive, the Canucks will accept picks, prospects, or young players in return. The Canucks have also had a conversation with Hronek and his agent, and there is an understanding that he has complete control over the situation and that he would like to stay in Vancouver. Management do not want to alienate an important player. They're trying to start a new culture. Now, this can be seen as a red flag for some, and we've already made our few videos talking about this very specific idea. Canucks fans are getting really riled up because Bowen Byram got traded for a 4th overall pick, Simon Nemec was traded for a 1st, you have Michael Kesselring that was acquired alongside of a 1st-round pick. Sure, that was a moving down type scenario, but Canucks fans are not feeling it when talking about Filip Hronek and why he is still on the Vancouver Canucks. Now, the fact is, Vancouver has established from the very beginning they want to set culture. They want to be able to have a good group of people and have a good set of standards around them. I have no doubt that if it was Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford at the helm instead of Johnson and the Sedins, we probably would have heard a thing or two. Oh, the Canucks are trying to get Hronek to waive. They're trying to do the same thing like the Oilers are doing with Darnell Nurse, forcing this guy to alleviate the trade protection that he earned in his contract negotiation and in his contract extension. They're trying to push this guy out because they know it's what benefits the team. And a lot of fans would go out there and immediately jump and say, good, that's exactly what they should be doing. They should be capitalizing on these trade prices. They should be capitalizing on what's there. But at the same time, I will fully understand the perspective that says, trading Filip Hronek now, because of the trade prices and the market, is reactionary. You're not trading Hronek now because you feel like now is the right time to trade him. You're trading him because of what the market is telling you about what players are going for. And in a way that completely contradicts what Henrik and Daniel Sedin said about not rushing. Filip Hronek is signed till the end of 2032. He is going to be the foreseeable number one defenseman on the Vancouver Canucks, a team that, sure, is still going to struggle, but a team that is going to try and give him the biggest stage possible to perform, excel, and up that value. I would not be surprised if Filip Hronek, by the time next season goes along, will have more trade value than what he has right now. And you can say that maybe his trade value at the moment is artificially pumped up because of the prices of Bowen Byram, etc. But the fact that he does have trade protection and Bowen Byram did not adds another layer of complexity to what we can essentially say is the value-to-value comparison between these defensemen. Bowen Byram doesn't have any trade protection, so there was extra value from that, even though Hronek is clearly a better player and right-handed. Meanwhile, Elias Pettersson, this is where things get super interesting. The trade price is awesome here. I love this. The fact that Elliotte Friedman pretty much confirmed the Canucks are going to get a bunch of young stuff in Elias Pettersson trade talks. That point on top, though, the Canucks originally were not going to trade Pettersson without receiving a comparable center in return. That has changed under new management. That is exactly what other reporters have been saying about the Pettersson trade discussions. Rutherford and Alvin, they wanted a legit center back in a Pettersson trade. It's why you could probably say Marty Necas was such a big staple in those Carolina Hurricanes Pettersson trade discussions from last year, even though Necas is primarily a winger and he's used as a winger in Colorado. He can play center, and that was a part that made him quite attractive in the Vancouver Canucks' eyes. But now it's reported that from Ryan Johnson and the Sedin's perspective, they don't care if they get a center back for Elias Pettersson. And honestly, I don't think they should. There are a number of centers already on the Vancouver Canucks that will be taking up spots and minutes, from Filip Hronek over to Linus Karlsson. Ilya Safonov is going to get a chance. Aatu Ratu's still in there. Marco Rossi. Max Sasson can play center. And that's all excluding Elias Pettersson. There are already enough guys if you really wanted to force a center core, and that's not even including Braden Coots or maybe Caleb Malholtra. Okay, no, the Canucks are not going to do that. He's going to college next year. Why would I say that? Anyways, Elias Pettersson, I don't think he's a super necessary important piece on the Vancouver Canucks forward core from a positioning standpoint. If Elias Pettersson was injured, which, let's face it, he was in and out of the lineup over the course of the past 2 seasons, Vancouver seems like they can operate just fine. So this notion that they need to get a center in return, it's like, well, you're only really doing that because you want to have a competitive team still. Trade Pettersson only for futures. Do the same thing Colorado did with Valeri Nichushkin. Get this guy off your team and just get the gosh darn draft picks, because that's going to help you out in the long-term future too. Heck, if you really wanted to, you can retain salary on Elias Pettersson, which it's been reported the Canucks now are willing to do. Use that retained salary to help you stay above the cap floor, and then sign whatever random center is available in free agency. I know, there aren't many, but you can sign whomever it is in free agency, give them a top spot in Vancouver, up their value, and then flip them at the deadline. I know that real life doesn't work like the NHL video games would have you believe, but there are a number of ways the Canucks can accrue value and extract it from assets that they don't currently own. Elias Pettersson is a player that they don't necessarily need to get a center back on now, and I love to see that. Thank you, Friedman, for providing us with the trade price. That is all, of course, assuming that Elias Pettersson isn't actually traded by the time this video comes out on YouTube. Maybe he gets traded at the draft, who knows? I'm not even going to knock on wood. I'm just going to let that thought exist in the universe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Elliotte Friedman and his Filip Hronek trade update? How Vancouver is probably not going to trade him, at least not right now. And the updated trade price for Elias Pettersson. Thoughts in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.